Hi, Chris here with probably one of the best fat-wheeled e-bikes that I have tested out around the €2,000, 2000 US mark. Now, it's from a brand called Vitilan. This is the first time that I have covered this brand. This model is called the T7. The T7, as you can see, does have those fat wheels. So they're 26 inches, 4-inch wide, and it does have knobbly tread to them. So great for where I am filming right here at the moment, out in the mountains with some rocky trails about that I'll be testing the bike out with, of course. So it has a removable battery that's using Samsung cells, always good to have brand cells, and it's 20 amp hours. It gives us a range of about 120 kilometers, but I'll be putting that to the test and I'll let you know what I am getting out of this bike. We've got Shimano Altus for the gears, 8-speed setup, and full suspension with this bike. And Tektro brakes, they're 180 millimeters. So great to see brand name components, Samsung, Tektro, and another one is Bifang with our rear hub motor. Now it's 750 watts. They say it can peak at about 1200 watts, but I do see it going over that in the climbs when I've been testing out this bike. So the T7 is that large. It does come in 2 boxes, so one for the front wheel, and we get the main box which has the rest of the bike. Great to see that the bike is really well padded and protected inside this box. There's no damage to it whatsoever. So I have here some mud guards. Now I'm not going to use them because my climate is not really that wet. We don't get a lot of rain, and when it does rain it'll be very heavy and probably for a week, so I wouldn't be going out anyway. But if you live in a wet climate, you'd be wise, of course, to install them. So I just want to run through a few other things about the bike that you should know. So kickstand, it's a solid one. It is adjustable and it supports the bike's weight, which is 36 kilos. So it is a heavy bike. Those Tektro brakes that I talked about in the intro, they're 180 millimeter. They have been very good. And of course, our Bifang motor, rear hub. Now it's a 48 volt system. It looks like it has a mid-drive motor set up, but it doesn't. That's just where the controller is inside there. Pedals are alloy, and I found them to be quite good. Now it's using a speed sensor here. Our battery, which is removable, it's located right here. It's locked into place. They do give you 2 keys. It's a 20 amp hour Samsung battery. The Mozo shock, you get 60 millimeters of travel with this. It does have adjustable preload, and you can lock that out completely. So they have lock grips here. They seem to do the job all right. There is a buzzer too inside that front headlight. It is very loud, and then we have our plus and minus pedal assist level. So that goes all the way up to 5 pedal assist levels, or you can turn it off completely. We then have our twist style throttle, and I find it does work pretty well. So if you don't want a pedal to start with, you can just use that, which may be a bit more difficult. So it means you can even start off in a higher gear instead of being in a lower gear. And then our display, a little bit hard to make it out at the moment because I've got direct sunlight on it, but it is clear. You see your speed, temperature even, battery level, trip, wattage, and those pedal assist levels. Tektro brake levers, hydraulic, they do have a very good feel to them. You can see all of our cabling there, so it's done a reasonably good job there of making the cabling look a little bit more tidy. And that's the other, of course, brake lever there. Now this front headlight, I do like. You can see it now. At nighttime, it lights up the path ahead of you really well. I think it looks good. It's got a bit of a motorbike kind of style to it. And it does have some LEDs on it, like daytime running LEDs, but those aren't really that bright. That in the daytime, as you can see now, they're not really that visible. So it's only just at nighttime. It is using a KMC chain, and our front chain ring, that is 53 teeth that it does use. It's got a guard around it, as you can see. Shimano Altus, that's pretty entry level there. We have the 8 different speeds. The largest ring there in the cassette, that is, I believe, 32 teeth. Climbing performance is okay, but you do need that motor. Without the motor, I find the climbing to be extremely difficult. And our CST BFT 26 by 4 inches wide fat tires with a noisy off-road style tread to them. So knobbly tread. They've got poor rolling resistance on the road, but they're not really designed for that. They're designed for where I currently am filming, which is out here off-road in the mountains. So a bit of gravel like this is ideal for these tires. And just be really careful with them in the wet. I do find them to be a little bit dangerous when you first ride with this style of tire in the wet. So the shock here, this is adjustable. So you've got 3 different settings with it. and it's got around about 30 to 40 millimeters of travel. You can see we've got that tiny little O-ring that is around it, and there's already a little bit of grease around that, but that is normal. It seems okay for this style of no brand really shock that it's using. Well, the brand of it, when you look at it there, it's a DNM. Never heard of them before. Both the front hub and the rear hub do not have quick release. The seat does have a lot of padding to it. It is wide, very comfortable, and you can drop it down really to a very low height, which is great if you're riding down rocky trails. You can get that seat really out of the way, and of course, good for shorter riders. So what is the Vitilan T7 like to ride? Well, it is a big bike. You feel the weight of it. We've got those, of course, fat wheels, 4 inches wide, and depending on what kind of tire pressure you're running, they can be very spongy and soak up a lot of the rough stuff, and of course, the dual suspension helping with this model. Now, it is a large bike, a large frame size. Now, the riding position is quite upright, I find, and it is comfortable. It is comfortable for me. I'm about 184 centimeters tall. I find it good. So the Shimano gears, we have 8 speeds as I showed you before. The shifts are very good. It all seems to be in alignment out of the box, no problems with it. And the speed sensor that it has, so no torque sensor, speed sensor. When you start to pedal, it's about a half a second delay at times, and you get sometimes around a second delay when you stop pedaling for it to stop giving that power. The power delivery is smooth, although it sometimes gives you a bit of a push ahead. You do feel that sometimes from this motor, from the Banggood 750 watt motor, which does have a lot of power. I see it peaking sometimes around about 1400 watts in the climbs. So smooth, comfortable ride. The front shock and the weight of the bike, you certainly do feel that. Now, a curb ride here, I don't even need to lift the front wheel up. I can just go straight up and down curbs, no problem. So it is time now to test out the top speed of our T7. Now, I'm only going to do this in this empty car park. That's the only time I will unlock it and test out this speed. I've got the bike in pedal assist level 5, which is our maximum, of course. So you can use the twist throttle. Accelerating with that, I'm now at 12, 15, 17, 20 kilometers per hour, 30 kilometers per hour, 34, 35, 40, 41, 42, 43, and almost 44. So very quick, the T7. Now for my climb test, let's see what it can do. This is about a 20-degree climb, and pedaling here, I'm in the wrong gear, and the speed sensor is very slow to kick in. There we go. It's now delivering that power, and I'm in pedal assist level 5. I'm just rocketing up this. This is effortless. I would estimate that I'm putting in probably about only a 25% effort. The bike is doing the rest. So the climbing performance is fantastic. And this is what I've come to expect from Bafang motors like this one. Rear hub motor, 750 watts, but I see it peaking at 1300, sometimes 1400 watts. So it delivers a lot of power, making those climbs just effortless. So how about braking performance? I'm currently doing about 35 kilometers per hour. Tektro brakes, 180 millimeter. They are very good. So from the white post here, just past this cyclist, full on emergency brake. And that was really good. Very good there from these brand brakes. Excellent braking performance. So I biked all the way up the top here. It's quite a climb, a couple of kilometers, and the Bafang motor held up really well. No problems with any overheating or anything like that. So I'm going to go down this very rough trail here. We'll see how the suspension's going to handle this, because it does have a little bit of travel. So about 60 millimeters on the front, the rear is about 30, so it's not a lot. The fat tires are going to be doing most of the work here. Because it's so wide, traction is good. Shocks are helping out as I go down this trail here. Very bumpy, a lot of loose rocks. It's doing a pretty good job of this. Now, normally I ride a Trek Rail 5. It also does have Tektro brakes, but its suspension, rock shocks, proper brand stuff does do a much better job than this, but that wasn't too bad. And what about uphill? So still a lot of loose rocks here. It's all about your momentum, really. You keep that momentum, try and keep your weight forward a little bit. And as you can see, it's climbing up this really well, thanks to the larger tires and that powerful Vitilan motor. Good climbing performance. So top speed of the bike is very good. If you've got it unlocked, you can get it up to close to around 45 kilometers per hour. Now that is going to affect the range, of course. You won't be able to achieve 120 kilometers of range if you're using it unlocked. So around town, I've been riding at it at the 25 kilometers per hour limit here that I have to abide by. And that will give me a range then of approximately 80 to 100 kilometers from what I've seen, judging from the battery gauge and all the rides that I've been doing, that it is very good. Thanks to the larger wheels, of course, that's going to help. Now, if it only had the 20-inch fat wheel tires, the range would be a lot less, and they're helping. And me not going over 25 kilometers per hour is also aiding in that range too, because once you ride over 25 kilometers per hour, if you've got that set as the limit, then you will not be using any energy. It's just your own pedal power, and that does, of course, increase your range. Tektro brakes, 180 millimeters, brand brakes, very good to see that. We've got Samsung cells in this, so another good brand. You've got the South Korean cells and the Vitilan rear hub motor, very powerful. It's got a lot of torque. It's about 80 newton meters of torque, and that's great. And then it can peak at 1200 watts. But when I look at the screen, I sometimes see it around 1300 watts. It's got plenty of power. So the climbing performance is excellent. It really is a good bike. Out of all of the styler that I've covered and these larger 26-inch rims with the fat wheels, this has the great frame, better shocks that they've used, even though they're no brand. You've got the adjustable rear shock, so you've got the 3 different positions there for it too as well, which is great. You could lock it out completely. You can lock out the front too. Comfortable seat, good front headlight. Everything really checks out. The only downside is the obvious one, that it is a heavy bike. It's about 36 kilos, so it's not light. You don't want to be lifting this upstairs. And it is a large bike, so for some people, this may be a bit of a problem. Storing a bike like this is going to take up a lot more space than some others out there, but it's got that comfort. And overall, I think Vitilan here, the T7, they do have a winner for the price they're selling this for. It is, I think, one of the best that I've covered of this style. So thank you so much for watching my review of the T7.